Welcome to Digital Marketing ROWhy, the podcast that connects marketing to your business's revenue and covers everything you need to know to stay up to date in this crazy digital marketing world.
Welcome to Digital Marketing ROI. I'm your host, Shannon Allen, here with my co-host, Krystal. Happy June, Krystal.
Happy June, Shannon. We are almost halfway through the year, and I can't believe it, but it's been hot lately, and I have been just absolutely thrilled to finally be getting sunburns. I went for a walk with my daughter yesterday and got sweaty going to the playground.
Like the cold weather. I'm done with wearing sweatpants and hoodies all the time, even at the end of May, right?
Yeah. So I'm so excited that it finally feels like summer. How are you doing?
Summer's here. Yeah. My daughter is out of school tomorrow, actually, is her last day. So
exciting.
Yeah. And today I'm really excited because we are looking back at, June is our 2-year anniversary of the launch. We launched on June 1st, I believe, 2023.
Yes. And in that time, in the last 2 years, we've done 51 long form episodes like this and 104 Tip Tuesdays. And this is our 52nd long form episode.
I love
Isn't that awesome?
Yes.
Let's start with talking about kind of the greatest hits of the last 2 years. I want to look back and then talk about some things that we have planning for the future. So first, I want to share our most downloaded episode. Can you guess what you think it might be?
Well, before I read your notes, because I did read your notes.
I forgot that I sent you the notes.
That's okay. In my head, I thought it was either going to be an AI episode or it was going to be Burrell. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But yeah, I thought it might be Burrell. That was because we've had him. We've had Gordon Burrell twice now in 2 years. So
yes. So the number one episode was his episode from last year. The title is Gordon Burrell Shares What Local Businesses Are Thinking About for Marketing in 2024. Why do you think that episode resonated so strongly and was downloaded so much, and especially in comparison to like the AI episodes that we've done?
Honestly, what they do best is their statistics. They do local research in local markets. And that episode is from 2024. The one that we did in 2025, Gordon even went a step further and pulled data for all of our specific markets. So Kalamazoo, Fort Wayne, South Bend, Mishawaka area. But the very first one that he did in 2024, we just did a lot of really good local statistics. And I think 2024 also was one of those, when we were doing the podcast in that particular episode, we were doing a lot of changes, a lot of strategy changes with digital marketing. Mm-hmm. We saw digital marketing really explode in late 23 and 24. So I think business owners were really looking for help. And I think that episode resonated with a lot of people, as well as like my entire sales team. There was great information in there. Anybody in that market, right? So not just business owners. I think there was probably a lot of people that follow Gordon that knows that he was on our podcast and follow that as well. So that's always helpful. But he gave so many great statistics, and that's why year after year I like to have him on in that early first quarter of each year, because he's doing these surveys and it really sets the stage for the year.
It does. And he's so insightful, and he doesn't just share the data, he tells the story behind it. He does,
yes. Gordon he'd be a great one to have on video where we could watch because his expressions make it. So I love talking to him when he's always at his stand-up desk when we do our podcast. And one time he was talking to me and he was like walking around with his laptop, and I didn't want to interrupt. He's like, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm walking over here.
Yeah. Feels like an Aaron Sorkin episode.
Totally. So we hope to have Gordon back each year. I think it's a great something to look forward to for our listeners, that the stats that Gordon gives they're from real people that are doing real digital marketing. Yeah. Real business owners.
Right? Yep. And seeing real results and having real challenges. And I think it's really invaluable for our audience.
It's one of my favorites. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, so you also thought that the top episode could have been one of our AI episodes. And I think that that's very insightful, because we definitely struck a chord with AI content. In the last 2 years, we had 6 episodes where we talked about AI and 14 Tip Tuesdays specifically that were addressing AI. And I think that we're going to see even more in the coming months, in the coming years. How have you seen AI transform digital marketing so much since we started the podcast?
It's become much more front and center in people's vocabularies, for instance. But I would say back before we even launched the podcast, I remember sitting at a meeting with a client, and I think you were there, we were at a luncheon, and we brought up the subject of AI, and that particular client, who is actually now retired, he was like, oh, I'm afraid of AI. I don't like it. And I kind of joked and said, it's been here all along. Like everything that we're doing on Google it just now says AI generated. Before it was written into the algorithm that was AI generated, right?
The algorithm is artificial intelligence.
100%. An algorithm, that's what it is. We called it the secret sauce. Well, our secret sauce of an algorithm has changed into what AI can do for us. So it's been a huge evolution. We think about how quickly AI changes and evolves. Mm-hmm. So it was 2 years ago, right before we launched the podcast, that I went to Burrell. Speaking of Burrell, I went to the Burrell conference, and multiple speakers was from OpenAI, was one of the VPs there that spoke. And that was really my launch into wanting to know more about AI and how it's going to affect, the digital platform, not only the digital platform, but how does it improve businesses? How does it improve everything my team is doing? What kind of policies? So I came back from that conference, and then we launched in June. And shortly towards the end of the year, I asked James Derby, my boss, can we start an AI committee that I wanted to head up? I wasn't the expert at AI, but I wanted to gather everybody in our company that uses it and utilizes it. And since then, I have grown leaps and bounds myself of how I use it. I know you have as well. So it continuously evolves. I think the big thing I would talk about with AI specifically is you have to have a human element. And yes, we learned that more than anything. I was doing a sales meeting earlier today, and I pulled some mid-year review stats from AI, and they gave statistics, but I said, I need you to cite that, because it was giving examples. My buddy Claude is like, oh, those are examples. I'm like, unless it's real and you're citing it, I can't use a stat. I don't want to use a made up example, but it also gives me so much information and saves time, because it's surfing the web for me to pull the top statistics and then turning it into, valid reasons that the businesses want to work with us. So the things I use it for are so strategy driven. I just need our listeners to understand that AI can do a lot for us, but it never will replace the human element and the editing portion and looking it over. AI makes mistakes all the time. Ask me about my closet. I try to have it designed.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
That definitely makes a big difference. One thing that I've been doing is so I'm working on a series of webinars and presentations. And I have all of my notes and my research, and I had it do a little bit of extra research for me on a couple of the topics that I'm working on. And I had a couple of presentations that I'd already created, that I already have all the research cited and everything. And I put it into Claude, and I said, reorganize this into, these are the presentations that I want. Give me my scripts, reorganize it for me into these presentations. Well, I've just saved myself 5 or 6 hours of writing those presentations. Now I just have to put it together. But I know that everything's accurate because I already put it all.
It came from you originally. Yeah.
It came from me originally. And it organized it. It gave it the structure that I could have done. It would have taken me 5-6 hours.
Yeah, so no, I agree. And I think that's a really important, AI only works, is only as good as the data you are also giving it, whether that's the questions you ask, the assignments. As far as the digital landscape, though, where we're going to really see the biggest changes continue to evolve, will be, in my opinion, search engine marketing and SEO. Because the way that we search is going to continually evolve with the advancement of AI. And SEM is one of Google's largest profit, silos, right? It's the largest profit silo. They sell display, they sell other things, e-commerce is a huge part of it. But search engine marketing as a whole, whether that's e-commerce, shopping, or whatever, is such a huge part of it that Google's going to have to figure out how that continues to fit in with the AI generated information. And so we will see that evolve. And I guarantee we will see that there will be a pay to play element with AI, unfortunately, probably come down the pipeline with Google.
Yeah.
We will see that. That's my prediction. But like that, there's a reason why we're going to continue to do these AI episodes. We already did one as it relates to SEM, but I could see us in the next couple of months probably revisiting that towards the end of, probably third quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I agree. You mentioned business strategy a couple of minutes ago, and I think that that's really fitting because if you categorized all of the episodes that we've done in the last 2 years, our number one most common topic overall is business strategy. And I love that because it's also our fourth solution. If you look at the 4 core solutions at FDS, why are you so passionate about business strategy?
Well, here's the thing. When I first came to Federated on the digital side back in 2013 and launched what is now Federated Digital Solutions, I came from a sales side and said, we need to organize this. So not only do our customers or our clients understand what we do, but so do our salespeople and how we do it. So I broke it down into 4 solutions, as you mentioned: branding, lead generation, social engagement. And then the last at the time when we first started was responsive web design, because back in 2013, I can't do branding, lead generation, or social for the most part without a landing page, without that website. And so that started as part of our core solution, but strategy was always part of it. And so there came a point when I said, time out. I don't want to build websites. That's not what our core of how good we are. I want to leave that to the experts. I want to be good at the things we're good at and let somebody else focus on that as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. You shouldn't do website development half-assed. Let's put it that way, right? We had great web designers, don't get me wrong, but I still use one of those web designers on the side. I just recommend people to Wayne and say, go see Wayne. He's really good. Yeah. When I took that away, I realized how much strategy is involved in everything we do. So I made that the 4th solution. And so I am extremely passionate about it because everything begins and ends with strategy. I'm doing some hiring right now. If anybody has any great people out there that want to work for a great company and do digital sales, come and talk to me, right? I had to put that plug in. But absolutely. I was explaining what we do. And this particular candidate was like, well, I've been in sales my whole life, but I've never been in marketing. Why do you think I would be good at it? I'm like, well, are you a problem solver? She's like, yeah. And I said, do you like to bring solutions to your clients that you work with now in sales? Well, yeah. Well, that's what we do. We create the strategy, and half of the battle is putting yourself in their shoes and walking through the consumer journey, right? So everything we do is part of the consumer journey in each one of those solutions, right? And so we look at that consumer journey, and everything that we talk about in there is strategy. So my favorite thing and why I'm so passionate about it is there's so many companies and partners out there or businesses that are selling digital that they just want to sell them what's the most profitable, what's the easiest. And I don't do that. We sell them what they need, and then we don't just leave it there. Then we strategize how to make it better, right? Yeah. I was meeting with a client yesterday that started a new SEM campaign in another state, and it's a tire company, a local tire company. And they started this campaign, and wow, their cost per click in Illinois was $1 cost per click. But here in Indiana, it was $3 cost per click. She said, why do you think that is? I said, well, there's more competition in Indiana for the tire company. Where you're at, the Illinois store doesn't look like there's as much competition. So let's capitalize on that. If you can get 3 times the amount of leads because it's $1, I go, we need to add more budget to that. Not because I'm trying to sell her more, but because, my God, it's $1 cost. It's like when something goes on sale and you're like, go get it. Let's run it. Get it.
Yeah. Stock up.
Yes. And so the strategy behind that was like the keywords that are living there might be different than this market. And that's what we were looking at. So all of that is strategy driven. Mm-hmm. And, our clients appreciate more than ever when we tell them, no, don't do that. That doesn't make sense. Or we advise them, because their job is to do and run their business. My job is to help them with their marketing and to strategize how to grow and have an ROI, which is why we did this podcast to begin with. So everything we talk about with strategy does come back to ROI.
I love that. Just hearing you talk about it, like the passion and like the excitement that you have for helping businesses and with that business strategy is just, it comes through so well. I love hearing you talk about business strategy.
Oh, thank you. I honestly, I've been out on more meetings recently and I forget that's the part that I love to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I want to talk about just some things that about hosting the podcast. So when you think back to, 2 years ago, when we were recording our very first podcast, what would you tell our past selves about what was coming?
I think something that I always know and I'm open to is digital marketing is in an ever changing landscape, right? And the beauty of doing a podcast, or maybe I shouldn't say the beauty, maybe one of the most difficult things about doing a podcast is you start to repeat, right? Or you like, how do you find something new and how to go after it? I feel like we talk about some of the same topics, but what I talked about 2 years ago as it relates to streaming video or, connected TV is different 6 months later and then 6 months later. And so if I had to go back, I was naive to think that like, I don't really ever struggle for topics. And I think that is something I wasn't worried about. I think I probably should have been at the time. I didn't realize it. But the topics really come to me because there's so much change constantly evolving. There's so much education in what we do. I think the one thing that I would go back and tell myself at the very beginning is we probably need more episodes. We probably could be we've talked about it. We could probably be doing a long form episode once a week. And if we found the time, we might be there someday if there's a need for it,
Yeah. Absolutely. And even though we might be talking about the same solutions in OTT or social, well, what we're talking about is so different
Right.
because everything changes so much. Yeah.
Well, let me ask to you because, those that do not know, Krystal is my co-host, but she's also my producer. I mean, you are taking our podcast and making sure that getting rid of the uhs and the breaths but you're editing when we screw up, but you edit other podcasts. What surprised you about our podcast compared to maybe some other ones that you've produced before?
How many insights that I didn't pick up on while recording live that when I'm then reading through or editing, oh man, that was so great. And also the unique way that we promote the podcast where we're creating videos and sharing those on social every week to promote. I'm trying to find a clip. We don't talk in sound bites.
Yeah, we
and
don't.
So that's
neither you or I do.
No, we don't talk in sound bites. And sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, this is a 50-second clip, but it's such a good insight.
Our sentences go long.
Yeah, we talk long. The other thing that's been really interesting about editing this podcast compared to the previous ones is that I started to use AI to help edit this podcast. I had done some light audio editing here and there, but it'd probably been 3 or 4 years since I had actually edited full episodes on a regular basis. And oh my gosh, if I had this then, it would be,
that's true.
It would be a lot more efficient. And it's really interesting. And I love getting to play with the different tools. I love being able to stretch different muscles that I have and do some of the audio editing and thinking about ways to promote it and thinking about ways to do the podcast differently. And I think it's just it's just fun content, but
and I think for me, the other thing that really evolved and where we've come from 2 years ago is when we first started this, I've told the story where it came from that I was doing a webinar and I was actually sitting in your office with the door shut, blind shut, talking to a room of 50 people on a webinar that I couldn't see, I couldn't hear. One of my sellers actually was fed some questions from her client. And so she put the questions in as if she was the client because she wanted to answer those for them. And it gave that brainstorm as like, I need to be having conversations. And so at first I was like, we'll feed questions, but I didn't realize how valuable it wasn't that I didn't think I needed a co-host. I wanted you as my partner all along, but what you and I have evolved into is this isn't my show. This is our show. We're co-hosts. We ask each other questions. I feel like you've come so far. You're one of my managers. You're the director of the social and content team. And you've learned so much from these podcasts, even about our other solutions. And you were already a marketer. And so what's really evolved between you and I is this conversation that we can have, this very easy flowing co-host thing that, we do laugh. We do have fun. We weren't just up here business only. Yeah. We have fun when we do our podcast, and that's why we want to kind of evolve it into something else. And I think we produce a really good podcast here. I think we put really good information out. I don't think enough people know about it yet, but I think that surprised me as how we evolved as a team.
Yes, I agree. And that's been really gratifying. I have loved getting to learn about all of these different solutions and these other sides of our business. And I try to help and teach my team those things too, because I think it's really beneficial as an employee to fully understand the business that you work for and not just your one piece.
Absolutely.
It's been incredibly invaluable. So let's now talk about some of the things that we want to do that going forward, a little bit more fun. We're working on building a studio where we can record video episodes of the podcast. What makes you most excited about venturing into video for this podcast?
I think sometimes people are visual people. Let me tell you this. I love it when people say, you have a great radio voice, right? What does that mean? Is I don't need my picture on camera. And so the fact that I even want to put a camera in there, but I was the first person when we first started talking about it, like I brought it up to you and you're like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, we both listen to podcasts a lot, but I also watch podcasts a lot. There's certain ones that I like to watch what's in studio, and I listen to the Vial Files a lot. It's a reality recap. It's Nick Viles, who was on The Bachelor, and he always has like special guests, but they're sitting on the couch and they're comfortable. And I like to see their reaction, or like you hear this voice and I want to know, well, who is that? I want to see them. And so it's really evolved. I think podcasts have evolved more and more in that sense. We have one of the best podcasts in our radio group that I think that, they have a ton of listeners, but the Jason Lane Cluck Show, right? Here's your freaking podcast. So we've said to them for years, you've advised them. I've told anybody that listens, and they know it, the powers that be know it, put a camera in that room, for goodness sake. Like, they are a riot when they get guest stars on and they're just in there talking. And this is why reality TV has blown up, 100%. Is when you can see real people doing real things. And so I think it just takes us maybe to another level as far as where do we go next? I think, are we going to be able to do it every time? I would love it. I'm trying to put the studio in our Kalamazoo office, which then means you come farther. It doesn't mean that we don't have, we have a studio we use when we're in Mishawaka that we can put we want to sit in comfortable chairs, and I want to make sure the angle of that camera is just right. So it makes us look a little
flattering.
Good, right?
Yes, that matters.
But as far as content goes, this is real aesthetics is what I want to put us in a studio and just let people see who we are, because we're fun people, right, Krystal?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it also gives us the ability to then put our show on YouTube, which will help us with finding more audience. And that's the biggest thing that we want more than anything, is to help more businesses and make a bigger impact. And so it's a natural evolution, and it allows us to do that. Because I agree with you. I don't think that enough people know about our show. And also, we'd love feedback if there's things that we can do better, for sure. If there's topics that people want us to address, absolutely. YouTube will help us get some of that feedback as well. So
right. And I'd like to have a studio to actually invite some of our clients to talk, and another special guest, right?
Yeah, I would love to showcase some of the great work that we've been doing and highlight their success stories.
I was meeting with South Bend Airport the other day, and Julie Curtis and I have kind of started our careers together when I first started working with her back even in my MLive days. And then I came back to work for Federated, and we kind of started our career together. And she said to me the other day, I said something about understanding your brand so well. And she said, well, I better understand my brand. I've been doing this for 13 plus years or whatever it was. And I thought, God, I need to have her on the show, because there's so much to understand about your brand, and to have somebody that knows it inside and out, and just to give advice to other businesses on how to take your brand to the next level. And we do that as well. But there's also internal marketing things that are more PR related, and things that I think our listeners would really enjoy hearing more about.
100%. That would be incredibly invaluable.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so
I've got to convince them to come on the show with me, but I think I
can do that. I think we can do that. The other thing that we want to do is live episodes. So let's talk a little bit more about taking the show in front of a live audience. How do you envision that, and what makes you excited about it?
Well, we were talking, we would like to start to share some more of our expertise and training, really like starting in that social media category with your expertise, Krystal, and your team. But I am recently partnering in the Kalamazoo market with the Growlers, which is the local baseball team, and we can use their facilities. And so I wanted to set up a training for local businesses that want to come and learn more about the tricks of the trade with social media and how it's changing and evolving. And what I said to you is, I think we could also do that is we could take our podcast on the road, because everything we do in a training aspect has to come back to what this podcast is, which is ROI. I'd like to do it in all of our markets. So that'd be the Kalamazoo market, that'd be Mishawaka, South Bend, as well as Fort Wayne. Is we're finalizing our brand new building in Fort Wayne that we'll have space to do and invite our clients up there and bring the podcast on the road. So like learn more from not just me and you, but from your team and my campaign members and my salespeople. So where it's more of a Q&A, where people can ask the questions that they want to ask. They can submit them ahead of time. So I would love to do a live show. I think that would be something that would be really cool to do. It can be part of a training that's a live podcast. It can be just, we have an audience there that went through the training in the last 15 minutes of it. We go live and the audience can ask questions, and we're sitting up there like, these are just my ideas that I thought would be fun to not only video and record, but to hear on our podcast.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And the nice thing is that we have the technology that we can record any live show, and just that's our podcast then. And I would love the interaction with the audience. I would love getting to answer the Q&A. That is the one part of doing a webinar that I like as opposed to the podcast, is that when we do get good questions in a webinar. But I also just love the interaction, the face-to-face of a podcast, being able to do that with you. And so I think combining both of those things, I think is going to be really fun and really valuable for our audience. So
I do too.
I'm really excited about that.
Stay tuned for that. We'll get the studio handled first, and then I'd like to get a training up and running here soon. So
yeah,
stay tuned to our listeners, especially in the Kalamazoo market. That'll be our first social media training that we're going to do.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, let's wrap this up then. So we've talked about where we've been. We've talked a little bit about where we're going. We always like to bring it back to ROI. My last question for you, Shannon, is as we head into year 3 of the Digital Marketing ROI podcast, what is a piece of advice that you would like to give to businesses as they're trying to navigate the digital marketing landscape, especially in 2025, but also going forward?
Biggest advice is don't try to do it yourself. I'm not going to change my own oil. I am not going to write all my own content on social media. I'm just not. I'm not a writer. I like to think that I can write, but I'm not. But I know more than most people, and I still want your team to do all my social media writing. But that's my biggest advice: is use your time wisely. That's what AI is all about, right? Like, where can AI make us more efficient? Don't think you can do everything. I mean, this is a mom 101 thing for me, is like, I can't do everything. Sometimes I got to ask for help. And it's some of the hardest things we do. And maybe it affects our ego. But when it comes to digital marketing, there's so many things that change on a regular basis that there is no way, unless that is your full-time job, that you could be able to do this all by yourself. And you'd be amazed at the return on an investment by partnering with an agency or an expert that understands digital marketing specifically that can help you. You will save money in the long run. Let me repeat that. We will save money in the long run and make a higher profit by partnering with somebody that does it professionally. Mm-hmm. So that's my biggest advice.
Well, and especially, I want to add on to that advice and say, especially with one that has a local team that is dedicated to learning about your business and has multiple divisions that each specialize in a different service. There are a lot of agencies that just do one thing, and they're wonderful, right? And for some businesses, that's all they need. But if you want the full scope of everything integrated together, working really well together holistically, I think working with an agency that specializes in digital marketing but has a team dedicated to each different solution, I think is really powerful.
Yep, agreed. Well, this is fun. Well, thank you for 2 years. I look forward to the rest of 2025 and what it brings for us.
Thank you. Me too.
And I hope after this episode, we gain a few new listeners.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks, Krystal. And join us in our next episode of Digital Marketing ROI.
You've been listening to Digital Marketing ROI from Federated Digital Solutions. Do you have an idea for a future episode or a burning digital marketing question? Text ROY to 45364 to get a link where you can share your idea. Subscribe to get new episodes every other Thursday, plus Tip Tuesday insights every week.
Podcasts by Federated Media.